Hello. Why? Okay, there it is. Okay, let's end this.
By ebb and flow, I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over by ebb and flow.
Inventory is full.
King's blood. I have no idea.
Aid
Inventory
us
is
in
full.
our plight. Enable my revenge. Aid us in our
No
plight.
idea what to do.
Convince me.
Inventory is
Our
full.
alliance binds me. Why have I surfaced?
The scepter is done.
Spare the pleasantries. This ought to tide you over.
How to regrow that tree? I can't remember.
Aid us in our plight. By ebb and flow. Enable my revenge. Why have I surfaced? Spare the pleasantries. Convince me. Enable my revenge. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. Why have I surfaced?
None left to revive the tree.
Aid us in our plight. I'll make it so. Spare the pleasantries. Enable my revenge. Aid us in our plight. Convince me.
How do I
Spare the pleasantries. Why have I surfaced? By ebb and flow, our alliance binds me. Our alliance binds me. By ebb This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so by ebb and flow. Why have I surfaced? Spare the pleasantries. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds
So
me.
this.
I'll make it so. This ought to tide you
Right,
over.
right.
Fangs bared by ebb and flow. Aid us in
Rockwell
our
and the
plight.
skull.
I'll make it so.
Ghost key? No,
Alliance
that
binds
can't
me.
be.
This ought to tide you over by
Can't
ebb
be.
and flow. This ought to tide you over. Why have I surfaced? Our alliance binds me. Convince me. Spare the pleasantries. I'll make it so by ebb and flow. I'll make it so by ebb and flow. Aid us in our plight. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. Enable my revenge. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. By ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so.
Slowly getting those secrets.
By ebb and flow. Convince me. Aid us in our plight.
I'll think about them more when I have triple hero.
Binds me. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide
If it
you
works,
over. I'll make it so. Our
he
alliance
just
binds me.
burns.
Fangs bared. Our alliance binds me.
Oh yeah, there's the void spirit too. This is some undead looking thing.
Aid us in our plight.
Inventory
By
is
ebb
full.
and flow.
Okay,
This ought to tide you over.
well,
I'll make it so.
I guess
Our alliance binds me.
this was figured out.
Enable my revenge. By ebb and flow.
Huh. Okay. I take less damage.
This ought to
Let's go read the news. Alan, wait. Okay. That's Angry Birds 3.
Why have I surfaced?
Shadow crystals. That's it.
So, by ebb and flow,
That's it. Really. Okay.
this ought to tide you over.
I need them so bad.
Our alliance binds
1,
me.
2.
Under attack!
This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so.
I have these here.
Spare the pleasantries.
That's enough, I think. Don't need any of those. Only I could see the stats, but at least 25.
Enable my revenge. Why have I surfaced? Drown them all. So, Owens. Our alliance binds me. By ebb and flow.
3,000. Whoa. Double
Spare
hit
the
with the
pleasantries.
tile strike.
I'll make it so. Alliance binds me. This ought
Only
to tide
4.
you over.
I know of one there.
Our alliance binds me. By ebb and flow. Why have I surfaced? I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so.
Oh.
Convince me. Our alliance binds me. Spare the pleasantries. Drown them all. Aid us in our plight. I'll make it so.
Oh, this is way faster than the first one.
Enable my revenge. This ought to tide you over.
That is stuff.
Aid us in our plight.
What they
Our
do.
alliance binds me.
No, the grid strike is better.
Convince me. Enable my revenge. I'll make it so. Spare the pleasantries. Aid us in our plight. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. Convince me. This ought to tide you over. Why have I surfaced? Enable my revenge. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. By ebb and flow. Aid us in our plight. I'll make it so. Our alliance binds me. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. Thanks, air. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. Sought to tide you over by ebb and flow. I'll make it so. Our alliance binds me. Round them all. This ought to tide you
Oh,
over
some
by
kind.
ebb and flow. Our alliance
Yeah,
binds
this
me.
here.
Fangs bared. This ought to tide you over by ebb and flow. I'll make it so. I'll make it so.
Inventory is full.
Enable my revenge. Spare the pleasantries. Why have I surfaced? Aid us in our life. Aid us in our life.
We. He's fake.
Why have I surfaced? Our alliance binds me. This ought to tide you over by ebb and flow. I'll make it so by ebb
Inventory
and
is
flow.
full.
This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me by ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. This ought to tide you over. Enable my revenge. Our alliance binds me by ebb and flow. I'll make it so. I'll make it so. Our alliance binds me. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow.
Potentially, yeah, no.
Convince me. Spare the pleasantries. This ought to tide you over. Spare the pleasantries. I'll make it so by ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. Our alliance binds me. This ought to tide you over by ebb and flow. Ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. This ought to tide you over.
I'll BRB, this is gonna take a while. Almost.
Aid us in our plight. Why have I surfaced?
No.
Enable my revenge. Convince me. By ebb and flow. Spare the pleasantries. Convince me. I'll
Oh,
make it so.
okay. Useful at least.
This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so. By ebb and flow. Why have I surfaced? I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me. Round them all. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide you over. Man-born scum. Round them all. I'll make it so.
Stone coffin is
Our
magically
alliance
sealed.
binds me. By ebb and flow.
Magically,
alliance
okay.
binds me.
Blood of the
This
king?
ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. Spare the pleasantries. Why have I surfaced? Convince me.
Trembles and despair. Doom has come to this world.
I'll make it so. Alliance binds me. Enable my revenge.
Inventory
I'll
is
make
full.
it so. By ebb and flow. Aid us in our plight. Convince me. This ought to tide you over. Why have I surfaced? Our alliance binds me. Aid
Inventory
us
is
in our
full.
plight.
If the dragon aspect, you things go here. The tree didn't accept.
Enable my revenge. Spare the pleasantries. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. Why have I surfaced? I'll make it so. Our alliance binds me. Enable my revenge.
Obtained an ancient
This
light.
ought to tide you over. Spare
Okay.
the pleasantries. By ebb and flow. By ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me.
That's
I'll
for
make it
that.
so.
And I know the hammer part is here. And you need the elixir from here to make the glue. Then you anvil
Aid us
pieces
in
are
our
falling
plight.
together.
This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so. Convince me.
I don't have any magic find and
Why
the other
have I surfaced?
part of the
Spare
dragon.
the pleasantries. Our alliance
It's a
binds me.
random drop, which
Aid
is not
us
fair.
in our plight. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. By ebb and flow. I'll make it so.
One, two. Only one left because one is up here.
We're under attack!
Gets used on that. Yeah, right here.
Why have I surfaced? This ought to tide you over. Convince me. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me by ebb
Only
and
one
flow.
left.
In our life,
I can't remember if it's up ahead or if I have found it at all. It could be this. There was something here, but I have to check. Check later on.
I'll make it so. Our alliance binds me by ebb and flow. Spare the pleasant
We're under attack!
There's no portal anywhere. Ah, damn it.
Why have I surfaced? This ought to tide you over. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so.
I doubt there's anything here, but I like swimming.
By ebb and flow. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. By ebb and flow. By ebb and flow. Aid us in our plight. Why have I surfaced? Land-born scum, I'll make it so.
Okay.
Our alliance binds me. This ought to tide you
Hey.
over. Spare the pleasantries. Enable
Weird
my
game.
revenge. Convince me.
I don't know that.
Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow. Our alliance binds me. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide you over. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. By ebb and flow.
Does it get swallowed? Straight? Well, I have this island, but it would seem straight is, depending on the strength of the character, is better due to health. Interesting.
Why have I surfaced? This ought to tide you over. Spare the pleasant.
Inventory is full.
Enable my revenge. Our alliance binds me. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. Aid us in our plight.
has to be so.
Convince me.
Inventory is
In
full.
our plight.
Inventory is full.
This ought to tide you over. Enable
Inventory
my
is full.
revenge. I'll make it so. Why have I surfaced? Spare the pleasantries. Spare the pleasantries. This ought to tide you over. Alliance binds me. Round them all.
So yeah, I basically know where everything is and how to do it. You just can't always do it on a single run. That's why you have plans to do triple hero run. Of course, solo. My friends will just pick a hero. And then I control them. It should work.
By ebb and flow, I'll make it so. By ebb and flow, alliance binds
One secret remains. Wonder where that was. It could be the Queen's Chamber. Lastly.
aid us in our plight.
I guess 1 point with the haste. 1 crit.
I'll
Whatever.
make it so, land-born scum.
That triple run takes will be a long one because next week I'll be playing Minecraft. My friend is setting up the annual community server.
Round them all.
Shame it's during the summer because I wanna go swimming.
Convince me.
This is unfinished.
Why have I
I'm
surfaced?
be
By
sure.
ebb and flow.
Yeah, it doesn't even say.
Binds me.
Yours usually say
Tide you over.
what kind of luck they have or something. It's unfinished. The small area. creator of this map is busy with real life and it's been over 10 years. Yes, hello. Sitting on a firework? Oh, that's actually an interesting item, but yeah, I don't think it's in. I mean, with a lifestyle build that could work in solo.
Why have I surfaced? I'll make it so. By this
Just in case. This boss is a big pushover. Seriously. So pathetic. Oh no.
After 10,000
Yes, I'll be back soon. Bye. Wow.
Enable my revenge. This ought to tide you over. Our alliance binds me. I'll make it so. By ebb
Yeah.
and flow.
Yeah, that's the second last boss. Just a pushover. And the item also is trash.
Why have I served
Trash.
by ebb and flow?
Yeah, I'm missing one secret. It's probably the Queen's Chamber one. Unless this could be...
Our alliance binds me.
No.
Spare the pleasantries. This ought to tide you. By ebb and flow. This ought to tide you.
I can't skip this. This can't be skipped. Oh, come on. Eh. Eh. No. I could do one run more as solo hero, but I really want to do the triple. If it's possible, it should be, I think. But yeah. Yeah, okay. This might be the strongest wall. I don't need to worry about that rain of fire. I do a lifesteal for. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Way stronger. Less damage, but tankier. My life still go. It's not as good. Let's complete this here and buy the Viper back.
By ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Aid us in our plight. I'll make it so. This ought to tide you over. This ought to tide you over.
In manner of
Ebb and flow.
That's why you
Spare the pleasantry. I'll make it so.
that one of fire is so annoying. There's no burn. combination of these.
In manner of
What man? Blah, blah. This fight is so tedious. I really want to do the rogue because we needed my friend with the duel. Again, my friend, but it didn't work out because my friend picked the witch doctor, and apparently there's a bug. You can't load. Blade load function does not work with the witch doctor. Oh yeah, we wasted 3 hours. And I really liked the world. It was so cool. Insta-killing people. What was it's always nice to leave you low. Yeah, the lyrics from Death Mark. I think it was that. I haven't heard it in a long time. Oh, it's always nice to leave you low. Yeah, I think it was something like that. I can't pronounce it well enough, but
Spare the pleasantries.
oh yeah, there's the end. Poop, I went there. I'm not ending this. There's secrets to be hunted down.
Enable my revenge.
So yeah, I think I'll say nobody with the triple hero unless I feel like doing solo now because the main reason is done now. A solo run with one of each category: agility, intelligence, and now strength. Yes. See ya.